I am so excited. Today I have the fantastic Ailsa Piper here with me. Now, Ailsa Piper is a writer, a director, an actor, but more than any of those things, and something that she's got in common with all of us, is that she is a passionate walker. Sinning Across Spain was such a fantastic book for me to read. So it was Ailsa's first book, and I finally felt like I'd found someone who'd been able to put into words what walking really meant to me, because I've always kind of thought of it as being unwordable, and it's an experience, and it's whether it be a physical or an emotional. And what is great is in Sinning Across Spain she touches on, well, what's that place where a physical walking actually becomes like a spiritual experience and a spiritual adventure. She has just released an updated version on that first book, and it's got so many extra layers of complexity and wonder. And she's going to be telling me about why.
It's adapting a play called The Duchess of Malfi for Bell Shakespeare Company, and in that play there are pilgrims. I was researching and I found this weird little thing that said in medieval times a person could be paid to carry the sins of others to a holy place. I just put out a note very quickly saying pilgrims seek sinners for mutually beneficial arrangement. 7 Deadlies a specialty, I will walk off your sins. It was very jokey, and it went a bit viral. So this is in 2010, and you know, a few tragics knew about it, but really you'd say to people, I'm going to walk the Camino, and they'd go, what? Now of course you can say that, and everyone is thinking about it, has a friend who's done it. So back then I had to explain, you know, what that was. So I put that out, people gave me what they called sin, and I became a bit nervous, and I thought, oh God, people have taken this more seriously than I have. So I walked, and I started in Granada, and in the first 400 Ks I met one other pilgrim. I walked 1300 Ks, and I got to the end, and I had learned probably a lifetime's worth of learnings. And I came home and I wanted to write a play for a friend of mine to perform about the experience, but it wanted to be a book. There's such a tradition of walking mystics in every tradition, you know, and walking with mantras, walking in circles, you know, labyrinths, the kind of Eastern walkers. But I come back to the Christian tradition, which is just the one that I was formed by, and in that, Jesus was a walker. And if you think about the Buddha, if you think about all the great teachers, you know, that we know and revere, a lot of them are walkers, and walking, they say, travels at the same speed as our thoughts. But for me, the thing just of walking is about humility. It takes us to somewhere else that we don't know about, and that's sort of what happens to me when I walk. Suddenly I'll be aware that I'm looking down on this little person with a backpack on her back, and I can see how small she is, and that I don't even have a sense that that's me. It's just this little person down there, like an ant. And when you feel like an ant, you can't think you're conscious and important. You're part of this. I suppose the most lost I've ever been came in 2014 when my husband Pete, we'd been together for 28 years, suddenly in May 2014, completely unexpectedly, good health, all of that, he just dropped dead. It was a brain hemorrhage. And I was thrown into complete, you know, shock and turmoil, and I feel like every bit of me felt broken. I hadn't walked for 2 years after he died, and it was coming up for the 2nd anniversary of his death, and I just thought, I've got to do something, I don't know what it means. And finally I thought, I think I need to walk. I need to go and see if any part of me is still whole and unchanged by that experience. It starts in Le Puy and comes south and ends in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, which is where the Camino Frances starts. And I went, and I was actually very afraid this time. I know how to walk, I love to walk, I know how to do trails, you know, and I've got some French. But it was more a question of staring down, who am I 2 years on without that person who I could orient to. I felt like I had no one to orient to. I was walking toward the Pyrenees, which are sort of they're the boundary between France and Spain, but they're also the boundary between, for me, the walks I'd done the Spanish sort of culture that I had come to feel was connected to wholeness for me, all sorts of things. And I just remember this day, I think I'd been walking for about a week, and I could see the Pyrenees in front of me, and I knew I was going to cross them even though there was snow, and I had this burst of happiness. It was just like, oh, this is me. It didn't feel like I was allowed to be happy. Whenever I'd be happy, I'd think, you're not allowed to be happy. If he can't be happy, why can you be happy? And that day I just remember standing in the middle of a little track, you know, green fields either side, and just saying, I really want to be happy, Pete. Please, you know, is it okay? Of course he would have wanted me to be happy. It's the most stupid, self-punishing thing. And I think, you know, that road really taught me that the worst thing you can do for yourself is to actively choose unhappiness. You know, that to go against all the gifts that this beautiful world gives us, and to say to yourself, I have to stay in unhappiness, that was kind of my sin that I'd been holding on to for 2 years, you know, the sin of choosing unhappiness. You know, the thing about walking is you get into that rhythm, particularly not so much with bushwalking where you do have to grapple a bit, but sometimes on those long Camino days you can get into a rhythm for maybe an hour that is unchanging, and it's like the rhythm of your heartbeat, and you just get into this, and you can't fight it because it takes you over. And something in being taken over by that peaceful rhythm sort of unlocks something for me. And it also sort of just reminds you that actually life is this rhythm, that you can come through things, and that it is a road, that it is a journey, and that in finding who you are, you can kind of come home. And that was what happened to me. You know, when people say to you, what do you do? Well, I write, I act, I direct, I teach, I do public speaking. Actually, who I am is a walker. Oh, I say slap on a pack and do it, you know, and I also say do it your way. There's no right way to walk a Camino, you know, it's a road, it's just a road. It's a sacred, dirty, filthy, holy, blessed, profane road. It says to you, come on, come and play. Go and play in whatever way you can, you know, because it's waiting.